Oh, Dr. Cinema again. And in case you didn't see my previous review of the first God's Not Dead film, I don't judge people based on their religion, their skin color, or ethnicity. I try to respect people regardless of all that stuff. So if I don't like someone, it's because of their personality, not because of their religion or anything like that. Now, again, let's start this one movie a new one. Now, before I even get into the actual plot, I already have a huge criticism of this film. The fact that it's God's Not Dead 2, a sequel. Did you not prove God was alive in the first film? I mean, this is from Pureflix, probably the most pro Christian entertainment business there is. So, did you not do enough in the first film to prove that God was alive and well? Already, this is really confusing from the get go. But anyway, let's get to the plot of this thing. Alright, so even though there are a few characters from the first film that make into the sequel, this focuses on a new set of main characters. A school teacher, played by Melissa Joan Hart, is being put on trial for allegedly pushing Christian ideals and beliefs onto her students. And so she's being put on trial. Now, Melissa Joan Hart's character, the school teacher, is completely in the right here. They show the scene that she's being accused of, and while she did talk about Jesus, she talked about them from a purely historical context. I mean, a student in class, by the way, she teaches like a history class. I can't remember what specific history, but it's a history class. A student brings up about Jesus during like a regular teaching day, and Melissa Joan Hart talks about Jesus from again a purely historical context. I'm actually kind of impressed by how well she handled it. She was completely in the right. There was nothing wrong about how she talked about Jesus at all. But she's put on trial because it's a movie. Now there are already a couple things wrong with this trial is that first of all, the sort of group, law firm, or whatever they are that are prosecuting uh, Melissa's character in real life actually defended people for their religious freedom. So it's kind of odd that they're prosecuting her. Secondly, the main lawyer that's prosecuting her is a cartoonishly evil atheist villain. Remember in my last review where I said Pureflix often makes atheist characters either a cartoonish evil villain or a secret Christian who just hates God but needs redemption? Well, this lawyer lands in the first category. Now, the trial itself is already confusing because part of it is like about whether or not she was actually pushing ideals and beliefs, but part of it also seems to believe that they're putting whether or not the existence of Jesus Christ on trial. Yeah, there's a weird part of this trial that's focused on whether or not Jesus Christ actually existed. And in a scene earlier, the lawyer says that they're going to prove that God is dead. I mean, again, cartoonishly evil. I have no idea how to respond to that. So, anyone that has a halfway decent education knows that Jesus was indeed an actual historical person that existed in real life. The question of whether or not he is actually the Son of God and whether or not he did all those miracles, such as walk in water, actually happened or not is always up for debate. But the fact that Jesus Christ was an actual historical real life person is fact. So the fact that that's even being questioned in this movie is really odd. Now, like I said, there are a couple of characters from the first film that make it into the sequel. There's the cancer-ridden left-wing blogger. There's a I forgot to mention this in the first review, but there's the Chinese foreign exchange student who converts to Christianity his family's despite his upbringing in his family, and of course Reverend Dale, who was actually kinda decent and entertaining in the first film, but there's a little mini plot with him that's kinda odd. I mean, due to this trial going on, some of the local churches and pastors and priests are being asked to send in transcripts of their sermons to send them in. And Reverend Dale kind of makes it seem like that they're being like prosecuted and being like hunted down or whatever. But the fact is, the reason in the real world, the reason why they would ask pastors and priests to do this is because they're trying to make sure that they're not using their sermons to publicly endorse a political candidate or political figure. Because if they do, they lose their tax exempt status. So in the real world, that's why it happens. And that's probably why it's happening in the movie as well. But of course, it's being made to be about something else that's completely not true. And so at the end of the movie, in a very obvious setup for a sequel, he gets arrested. And I'm not talking about just at the end of the movie. I'm talking about a post-credit scene. Yeah, they're really going full out sequel setup here. And I guess it's worked because a third film's coming out. I think it actually comes out this weekend. And I suppose in an effort to follow through on this, I guess I have to take a look at what is now apparently PureFlix's most successful franchise. Oh my god, I said that. But anyway, God's Not Dead 2. How does it stand up to the first? It's kinda worse than the first film, I have to admit. I mean, it's kinda worse. However, Melissa Joan Hart is the main character. And I remember watching her in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I had a crush on her back then. I still do now despite this movie. And even though I love Melissa Joan Hart despite this movie, it's still technically a worse film than the first one, which is still bad, but a little less worse. So, that's all I have for this review. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and Dr. Cinema will see you next time.